how are you doing? Welcome. It's Mr. Warren Hayes here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Getting right in here for the very first top-notch, #1 recap of the G1 Climax 32. We're starting this today. We're combining nights 1 and 2 into one sweet, delicious recap I'm offering to you right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Hey, by the way, if you're watching this right now on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, give the video a like. That stuff helps out a great deal. Do that right now. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a full coverage of the G1 for the next month or so, or a little bit over a month. Combining 2 nights into one review. So if you want to keep up with it, if you want to hear how things are going, maybe you don't have time to consume everything in the G1 and you just want to be like, hey, you know what? I just want to know what I should watch, what's interesting, what's going on. You just want to keep up with the highlights too, which is possible. You know, you want to maybe get more invested once we get down the line. That's fine too. I'll be here to help. Basically what I'm saying is subscribe if you want all of that. I'm going to be doing, look, it's going to be comprehensive. It's going to be full of newsy notes and tidbits, some analysis as we get further on into the and prognostication as we get further on into the G1 itself, right? So join me, subscribe today, and if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Consider giving a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. That stuff helps out a great deal. But you know, y'all, none of you are here really to hear all this talk about, you know, how, you know, likes and follows and ratings and subscriptions and all of that. No. That's not why you're here. You're here because you want to hear talk about the G1 Climax from New Japan Pro Wrestling It started on June 16. We already have 2 nights in the can, and already I'm seeing how different my coverage is going to be this year. It's going to be very, very interesting and different just because of how the blocks are composed. I talked about this on the podcast, on the preview that I did on the preview show here for the G1 Climax. Well, it wasn't a preview show. It was a segment on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on the podcast, where I previewed the G1 and the 4 blocks, everything spread over so many nights. It's a very different approach to what we usually have, right? Because I'd be sitting down here tonight, we'd have, you know, in years past, we'd have one night of block A in the can, we'd have one night of block B in the can, and we'd already see, you know, how everyone in the block is set up and how, you know, maybe we could start talking about some trends, maybe, you know, still slide in some predictions, so on and so forth. But we can't do that. And we won't be doing that for a while still because the blocks are all spread out. 4 blocks. Look at that. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, you see how things are set up straight out the gate, right? So it's an interesting one, but we're going to talk about it. And just like I did last year and previous years, I'm not going to cover the prelim matches or the matches that aren't tournament matches. There is an undercard to the tournament matches on this tour. I thought that wasn't going to happen, but turns out there is an undercard. Obviously, you can watch those if you want to. I know there's story elements that might carry into the tournament themselves, but I much prefer to focus on the tournament matches themselves, if you're okay with it. Now, look, I'll cut to the chase, and I think I'm going to call this segment "Cut to the Chase." No, I'm not going to turn it into a segment, but I am going to cut like right to the chase, nonetheless. Segment name or not. There are currently 3 top-notch great matches in the G1 so far. So if you're asking me, Warren, is there anything that I absolutely should be watching at this point? I have a small amount of time at my disposal. I have a wife and kids and, some side action going, or I got, I work 16 hours a day. Like whatever, maybe you just like to know. Maybe you just like to know what the deal is, right? What should I be watching? Well, I'll tell you straight off the bat. From night 1 on June 16, Will Ospreay versus El Phantasmo, which was, when I was watching it and I took it and wrote it in my notes, I said, this is the baseline. This is the baseline for a great match in the G1, because this was fantastic. I think it's something everyone should take the time to watch. Then on night 2, definitely Taichi versus Tomohiro Ishii, but the match so far, like the one that you need to top, is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kenta. Again from night 2, just absolutely fantastic stuff. But I'll get into it in a little bit. But if you're just like content with this, you don't need the rest of my review. I appreciate you coming though. I appreciate you coming and hang out a little bit. That was nice of you. But yeah, let's go right ahead and talk about the matches on night 1. Started off with some C block action where Aaron Henare defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi in just a little over 11 minutes. It's a surprise win, but maybe not a surprise booking element. Gato likes to throw a curveball when these tournaments starts, right? When these tournaments start, excuse me, he likes to just do something that'll just shake everything up, that everyone will be like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Well, here it is. There you go. Aaron Henare getting one over Hiroshi Tanahashi. This match was fine. Like, it was all right. Henare hits a springboard kick and interrupts a sling blade with his berserker bomb. He gets the full Nelson on Tanahashi, who struggles out of it. He hits a pair of twist and shouts, a sling blade, aces high, and a high fly flow. But Henare lifts the knees on the high fly flow. He connects with the Streets of Rage and gets the win. This is obviously a big win for Henare. Probably one of, if not the biggest, most high profile victory of his career so far, getting one over Tanahashi on the opening match of the G1. I think that's a big deal. It also goes along what a lot of us are saying, is that Hiroshi Tanahashi, he's getting up there in age. And despite the fact that he's still a star player and can absolutely go, maybe the G1 isn't his spot anymore. Maybe it's not an area for him to shine as brightly as he can in other areas, in other matches, and more singular feuds. I think it started last year, and we're going to continue on this tread where Tanahashi is going to, I think he's going to re-enter the G1 next year to beat Tenzan's record of the most G1 entrance participations, is what I'm trying to say. I think that's the kind of thing that Tanahashi feels is important. I think it'll be part of his legacy. It's the kind of record that he wants to maintain, and it'll probably be a record that will be set for a long time as well. But I think next year might be really his last, or one of his last. I already think this year is one of his last, but they're slowly fading him out. It started last year, really, where he didn't have a winning record. I don't think he's going to have a winning record this year. Because here's the thing, that listening to commentary, that dawned on me, as opposed to other editions of the G1, right, where you can get a surprise win, or you can take an early loss. You can take an early loss, but then come back on this long, like, undefeated streak or whatever. There's 6 matches per wrestler per block before heading into these semifinals, until we get the block finals and the semifinals. Well, the semifinals and the finals is what I'm trying to say. And so I'm looking at it and, like, Tanahashi might be screwed out the gate. In fact, anyone who loses their first match might be screwed. Like, they're on the struggle part to get back, because there's not much wiggle room to get back on top at this point. So, yeah, you know, I still think this is part of Tanahashi slowly starting to be phased out. You know, it's not going to be something drastic where all of a sudden he's going to be, you know, all of a sudden he's going to be one of the New Japan dads. That's not what I'm saying. But I think as far as the G1 goes, I don't think he's going to have as much of a crucial impact as he perhaps did in years past. But Aaron Henare gets the win here in a fine little opening match. Will Ospreay defeated El Phantasmo to score his 2 points in the D block. This, like I said, this was the first great match of the tournament, and for me, it set the baseline. I was like, this is the one that everyone else has to compete with. This is the one that every other match is going to be judged on, and it was such a wonderful surprise to see this one coming in so early. Because if you remember my G1 coverage last year, if you remember, I was like, I thought the work was solid overall last year. I thought everything was good because there's too many talented, too many world-class athletes in this environment for it to stink, right? But we were lacking last year of these big matches, these big emotional matches that everyone can sort of clasp onto, or that, you know, pundits like me will be like, look, this was awesome for this and this reason, and you should go watch it. There was a distinct lack of that. So you know, one of my personal hopes was that this year's G1, the 32, would be better than the 31. And if we're on night one and we're already getting a great match out of it, sure, let's go for it, right? This is a very good sign, and I have full confidence that this G1 is going to deliver. It starts really fast, this match here, with Ospreay and ELP. With Ospreay hitting a handspring tope to the floor. ELP has a beautiful acai moonsault at some point as well. Pair of drop kicks on Will Ospreay while he's in a tree of woe was pretty fun. There's this great fast sequence between them both. Lots of evasiveness, back and forth, in and out. We get an enziguri throughout all of that, a stun dog millionaire, an os cutter blocked into a reverse Spanish fly, just fantastic stuff. And this really fun moment where El Phantasmo goes for the Thunder Kiss. He's on the top rope, goes for the Thunder Kiss, but Will Ospreay sort of just like rolls away. You know what spot I'm talking about. You know, the guy on the mat realizes that the other guy's about to do a dive, so he just rolls further away. But ELP's like, fuck it, I'm going to jump anyway. And he does the dive. I mean, Will ultimately rolls out of the way. It was a very ill-advised move, you know, but still very cool where ELP's like, nah, I'm just going to do it anyway. And the ending I thought was fantastic. Fantastic ending with Ospreay kicking out of a near fall backslide and just whomp the hidden blade out of nowhere to ELP for the win. And this is interesting. And I said this in the preview. Keep an eye out for ELP for the G1 this year being his star-making performance. And, I know a lot of people like to use those terms very liberally, but I think this is going to be the G1. This is going to be the series of matches, right? Or at least, look, if I were him, this is how I'd approach them. How about that? This has to be the series of matches that he has to get into so that he can convince people of how really fantastic he is. Because he is an excellent talent. Just absolutely remarkable. He's graduating up to the heavyweights, I guess. The fact that he's, following that his first match is against Will Ospreay, who was a guy who had a bit of a star making moments in the G1 as he started moving up from the junior heavyweights. Maybe there's a little compare and contrast here. I don't think this match was accidental. I think I think Gato wanted us to make the comparisons here between Ospreay's transition from the junior heavyweights to the heavyweights. I think it's the same thing here with El Phantasmo. I think he wants us to zone in on this. He wants us to hone in on it. This was a great showing, of course, by both guys. Will Ospreay is absolutely fantastic. He's, one of the absolutely in the talk for wrestler of the year, and Phantasmo is on the rise. His stock, if this tournament goes his way, whether he wins it or loses it, if it goes his way, his stock is going to rise tremendously. So I'm excited. This was a very good match. You should absolutely check it out. In B block action, Jay White defeated SANADA. Now, I know there's a lot of people who didn't like this match because of who's involved in it. I would agree SANADA is an acquired taste. Jay White, I think, gets a bum rap for being a slow worker because he's in such an environment where in New Japan, where work rate is prime. That's what puts you, that's what the whole centerpiece of it, the level of work rate in New Japan is what people tune in to see. And Jay White feels a little off color in that regard. But when you look at how he wrestles, he just wrestles smartly. He wrestles like a perfect top heel. He's not taking it easy. He's, another word that gets thrown around a lot is methodical. He uses a very methodical style. A lot of people will use the methodical excuse for, oh, well, it's a slow match. He's being very methodical. But in his case, he really, really is. To that degree, I understand that Jay White SANADA isn't everyone's cup of tea. And, I think a lot of people start with a bit of some prejudice when these two guys wrestle each other. But I think this is one of the better encounters that they've both had. I enjoyed this match quite a bit, but I'm a big Jay White guy at the same time, and he was in a mood. He was in a mood to just be stupid and be annoying to SANADA and, trying to get the audience to react. He was in full on Jay White, arrogant heel mode. I liked it. He's in control of the match until SANADA drop kicks him to the knee and hits and connects with the Paradise Lock as well. Jay White hits a brainbuster and a German suplex that made Gato just explode with glee. You see the German suplex and you just hear Gato's guttural, throaty shout of glee just resonate across the stadium. It was really fun, or the venue. That was really funny. There's another pretty fun spot where White uppercuts SANADA, and as SANADA's falling, he accidentally low blows Jay White. And then obviously there's some argument with the ref because Jay White is Jay White. There's some near falls. Jay White gets into the skull end, but he reaches up and starts clamping down on SANADA's orbital bone, which was recently injured, of course. Well, he's recently back from that injury, and he lands the Blade Runner for the win. I enjoyed it. I think, it was a good match. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And finally, in the main event, Kazuchika Okada defeated Jeff Cobb in Block A action. Jeff Cobb last year had a perfect G1, and the only person who ruined it was Kazuchika Okada. So to no one's surprise, we start off with this one. The G1 feud from last year continues, but we're settling this one straight off the bat, right? And Okada gets the victory here. And to no surprise, this match was very good. I think Okada and Jeff Cobb work really, really well together. And every time they fight, they're telling this story where Cobb is coming in a little harder, a little stronger, a little smarter. You can see in the way that he approaches his matches with Okada, he's not just like, I'm going to be a big, strong guy. No, he's being much more calculated, He does use his strength, but more to his advantage. Okada tries quite a bit to get the upper hand on Cobb. Cobb is too strong, too wily. He's using his strength at very judicious moments. Cobb at some point does a sack of shit on Okada, and he just launches him. Like Okada bounced on the mat. I don't remember seeing Kazuchika Okada being thrown like that in a while anyway. Okada's offense, they go to the floor. Okada tries his offense on the floor, like the DDT and stuff. It's not working. Nothing is working. But back in the ring, a DDT and a flapjack work. There's some drop kicks by both men. Okada hits a super gut wrench suplex, which ruled. Then the standing moonsault. Okada barely kicks out of that. There's this great spot. Like, I mean, a great spot where Cobb tombstones Okada, but doesn't release the hold. And instead, he gets back up, lifts him back again, still keeping him in the tombstone position. He doesn't hit a second tombstone, despite the fact that the audience broke the rule and all went, oh, they were delighted. Like, everyone was like, holy shit, we never see this. But Okada spun out of it and, well, he reversed out of it and hit a spinning tombstone instead. He goes for the Rainmaker. It's countered with a headbutt. It's just great stuff. But Okada avoids the Tour of the Islands, hits an Enziguri and an Emerald Flosion and the Rainmaker for the win on Cobb. So Kazuchika Okada already at 1. And Jeff Cobb is going to have to work from underneath at this point. Like, it's already bad news for him. It's bad news for everyone who's losing these first matches here. Overall, I would even say, like, if you wanted to watch, look, here's the thing. Just a quick recap here. As we were saying, Will Ospreay, El Phantasmo, fantastic match. Yeah, I think you should go watch it. But if you wanted to watch the whole thing, at least the tournament matches, this was a very good night for the G1. This was very, very entertaining. Good to great matches, entertaining throughout, like some solid work. Nothing boring, nothing that you'll just go, ugh. It's a good night of wrestling. Plus, it's free on New Japan World. So there's no reason for you to not be able to watch it. There's no reason for you really to not take like 12 minutes out of your day. What was the time? 15 minutes out of your day to watch Ospreay and El Phantasmo at the very least. Very, very good match. Good evening of wrestling was night 1. How about night 2? Well, let's talk about it. Opened up with Taichi defeating Tomohiro Ishii to get his 2 points in the B block. This match it ruled, first and foremost. It ruled, and it goes hard, and it goes fast. Huge palm strikes by Taichi he hits one, come to think of it, if I remember this correctly. He hits one palm strike on Ishii, and Ishii is staggered. And like, he goes down to a knee, and he regains his composure after a while, hits a 1-2 forearm combo then on Taichi. Just great stuff. Ishii's so pissed off here. He's so mad. He's calling Taichi out by his shoot name. They chop each other across the throat. Backdrop suplex by Taichi. Stalling superplex by Ishii. We get kicks, lariats, axe bombers, dangerous suplex into a bridge. The brainbuster is avoided by Taichi, who hits a Gamengiri, an elbow, and the Black Mephisto for the win in just a strong fight. Good old-fashioned fight of people who are just beating each other up. I thought this ruled. What a great match. One of the top matches of the tournament so far. Absolutely go check it out. And Ishii proven his worth again as the MVP. But again, like always, the bridesmaid, never the bride. But straight out the gate, Ishii's job was to make Taichi look like just $1 million, and that's what he did. But credit to Taichi as well, because his game has been phenomenal since when did Dangerous Tekkers start? Like, I really feel like it was around that time when he started teaming with Zack Sabre Jr. and he started doing the ripping off the pants stuff. I feel like something happened. He started taking his job seriously. I don't know if like someone came up to him and was like, look, in management's like, look, brother, you have to up your game because we can't keep you around anymore, Or maybe he was just tired of being relegated to the bottom of the card. I don't know. All I know is that this match ruled. And let's move on to some Block A action where Toru Yano defeated Jonah. Was accompanied to the ring by Bad Dude Tito. Bad Dude Tito, who is now in the Mighty Don't Kneel. The Mighty Don't Kneel, who are now actually becoming a thing, a faction in New Japan. This match annoyed me because it was Jonah's first outing in Japan for New Japan, and it's his first match in the G1, and they're presenting him as, you know, a badass. Like he's part of Haas Block. A Block is Haas Block, right? And he's being presented as this big tough guy. And, you know, the first match that he gets out of the gate is against Yano. And you know how Yano matches go. You know, I like Yano. That's not the point. But you know, Yano matches are always silly. They're ridiculous. They're about the nonsense, the shenanigans, right? There was no room for Jonah to stretch his legs here and to really be impressive, right? And I think there could have been spots to do that. I think they could have taken a little more time to get him legitimately in a position where Yano has to struggle a little more, where Yano eats some shit a bit. But I feel like Jonah just came off as a big dumb idiot, or Yano came off as just the smartest guy in the room. Either or. The match comes to an end when Yano low blows both Jonah and Bad Dude Tito outside the ring for the count out victory. Now, Yano gets his 2 points. So I get, you know, there is some consolation, right? Where it's like, oh, well, Jonah was protected. You know, he wasn't pinned. But still, he starts with a no. He starts with a donut straight off the bat. So he has to struggle back against the rest of the people in the tournament, in the block. So I don't think he's going to be an issue, but we can talk about that really quickly towards the end. Block C match now. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated KENTA, match of the tournament so far, in your boy's humble opinion. This ruled as hell. This ruled as hell. Two guys beating the absolute shit out of each other. Both of them were in bad moods. And you know, like, KENTA was particularly in a bad mood. And Zack Sabre Jr. was like, you know, Zack Sabre Jr., I feel he's always at the very, in his best moods, he's sassy. You know what I mean? You hear it, and you know, everyone was, both guys were pissed off in this match, and they were pissed off at each other. And I loved it. I loved it. I got a bit of a shock when he being KENTA, I think he had a t-shirt on anyway. The first shot of his back that we got, of his bare exposed back, we saw that scar all the way down his back that he got at that ladder match at the Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year. And I was like, oh, that's a nasty looking scar. It's like, it goes all the way down the left sector of his back. But look, these guys were in a scrapping mood. This was a scrap. This match was a scrap. And it wasn't even like the Zack Sabre Jr. stretch game, you know, where then, you know, KENTA tries to match up with it. No, this was KENTA's match. And they just go brutal on each other. I mean, we do get some stretches and bow and arrows and limb manipulation by Zack Sabre Jr., right? But he and KENTA they're trading kicks. They're challenging each other to hurt each other. You know, it's like, here, you kick me hard. Okay, now I sit down and you kick me hard. And like that kind of match. KENTA hits the Dream Killer, corner drop kick, and a coup de grace as well. Sabre avoids the GTS, but eats some strong palm strikes by KENTA, who's just doesn't care. Just going in like full force on him. Zack Sabre Jr. gets a sleeper hold locked in, then transitions into a Cobra twist, then into a full Nelson, then into an ankle lock, you know, and finally, like, Chris Charlton was putting this over on commentary saying, you know, here's the great thing is that Zack Sabre Jr. says, I'll wait 6 seconds. And if my opponent hasn't tapped or hasn't, been knocked out, I'm going to transition into something else. And doesn't that make more sense than, locking in a figure 4 or a sharpshooter and just like waiting there until your opponent taps? It makes more sense to me. This is always something I've liked from Zack Sabre Jr.'s game. Kenta hits a pair of Basaiku knees, covers Zack Sabre Jr., but breaks up the pin in an extremely ill-advised strategy. He's just like, breaks up the pin himself. And then he does it again. And Kevin Kelly was like, well, sure, Kenta has a point to prove, but he also has a tournament to win. And I'm like, Kenta, what the fuck are you doing? Zack Sabre Jr.'s on his back, and Kenta's just palm striking the shit out of him. But then Zack Sabre Jr. grabs the arm and twists him up into an arm lock or a wrist lock. Couldn't quite make it out. It's one of these crazy submission holes that Sabre just pulls out of nowhere, gets the win as Kenta instantly taps, just like goes. And Kenta was like, I didn't tap, but no, brother, you tap. We're good. Hell of a fight. A fight. This is what I like about the G1. This is what I like about pro wrestling. Two people just going in. It's like, look, one of us has to win. And it's important because we got 2 points on the line. Kenta lost it. Kenta, he went native, I guess, went rogue. I don't know how you want to call it. But he forgot why he was there. And he paid for it. It sucks, but it's also awesome. Just a great match. Fantastic, fantastic match. And in the main event, Block D action was capped off by Rock Hard Juice Robinson defeating my boy, Shingo Takagi. Look, this was good, was not great. I think my appreciation of the match is mostly hampered by the finish. Has nothing to do with the fact having Shingo lose. They're not doing anything with Shingo right now. Like Shingo is not being pushed right now in the company. So, clearly his G1 here, he'll probably finish with a winning record, but he's gonna put over a couple of guys who are in positions where they have to, where they're being pushed, where they're in storylines, where there's something to advance. And Juice Robinson, check this out, as I was looking, he's fighting against Will Ospreay on the last night of the tournament, and they're already embroiled in this U.S. title stuff, because Juice came out with the U.S. championship, which he's holding hostage, which he hasn't handed back yet to Will Ospreay, despite the fact that Will Ospreay defeated him in the 4-way match to become the new U.S. champion. But Juice is like, nah, sorry, brother, that doesn't work for me, kind of thing. So he's coming up with the U.S. title, so they're on a collision course, inevitably, and they are fighting on the last night. So that's something that will play an important part in the story of Block D at this point. So in that regards, Juice winning against Shingo makes sense. I think it's okay. And it's, like I said, despite the fact that I love Shingo, I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's, one of my personal favorites. I think that it's fair for him to lose because there's nothing right now for him. There's nothing that they're pushing forward right now. So it's all right. And another thing that they did here in this match, commentary mentioned it, like I think it was Juice's first match in Japan for over 400 days, right? So this is his first match on Japanese soil as a heel. So I think that they use this as well to really establish Juice's new heel Bullet Club persona. He's not flamboyant anymore. He's not, is smiling and high-fiving the kids and all that. No, he's he's on the floor, he's fighting, he's doing lots of dirty tricks, he's throwing Shingo over and over and over and over again into the barricades. Lots of strikes and straight punches by Robinson as well. Shingo hits a brainbuster, or attempts a brainbuster, but Juice tries to reverse it by shifting his weight, but Shingo shifts his weight too, and he's like, all right, I'll do a suplex instead. That was pretty good. Shotgun dropkick by Juice and a cannonball senton, superplex, and a full Nelson bomb as well. He hits the pulp friction. He goes for pulp friction, but it's reversed into the Noshigami by Shingo, who hits a wheelbarrow suplex. And I mark out every time I see a wheelbarrow suplex because it is one of the most, it always significantly looks like one of the hardest moves to do because of the motion and the strength that is required to. And it looks like it's one of the hardest moves to take as well. Just fantastic stuff. A slingshot spear attempt by Juice is caught by Shingo, who hits an assisted neck breaker followed by a pumping bomber, but the match comes to an end with a pair of punches by Juice. He tries to lift Shingo for the rock slide, but as commentary said, is that he doesn't have it in him, so instead he goes for another pulp friction. He lands it. He wins the match. There you go. Not much more to say here on that match. As far as night 2 goes, I thought this was again great evening of pro wrestling. It just flies by. It just flies by. I think on top of that, this is overall like you have 2 high quality matches. You have 2 legitimately great matches on this card right here with Taichi, Nishimori, and Saber and Kenta. We're not talking match of the year candidates, don't get me wrong, but matches that just like, hot damn, it's the kind of matches that you go, this is why I love pro wrestling. This shit is great. So, if anything, watch those 2 matches, but you won't be disappointed if you watch night 2, unless you really, really hate Yano matches. Well, then it ain't for you. So it's really hard to do it's really hard to do predictions, or prognostications really with the standings like this. As you can see, if you're watching this right now on youtube.com, you can see you see the standings right here, and it's all very, everyone's at 0. Everyone's at 0 still. There's, Okada and Yano, who are tied at 2 in Block A, White and Taichi tied at 2 at Block B, Henare and Saber tied at 2 for Block C, and Ospreay and Robinson tied at 2 for Block D. Maybe 2 things that I want to throw out here just as preliminary prognostications, predictions, whatever you want to call them. I would say that Will Ospreay and Juice Robinson will probably be neck and neck throughout this tournament. I think this is going to be, I think there's a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of Juice Robinson wins in this tournament here. If he was able to put away Shingo, I don't think his old partner Dave Finlay is going to be an issue. I don't think Yujiro is going to be an issue. And I don't think Yoshihashi is going to be an issue either. Maybe, ELP could be a potential spoiler, but as far as Ospreay goes, I think his only potential spoiler is Shingo at this point. So I think they're going to be neck and neck to the very end of the tournament. And I think they're going to have to go with the tiebreaker here on the last night. And they, like I said, they have the whole U.S. title stuff going on. So it all ties in. It all, to me, it all makes sense. The second thing that I want to mention is Jonah, who lost his match to Toru Yano. And like I said, I think it's weird to me that he was booked like this instantly, like his first night with Yano, lost, in a little, in a shenanigans match, and without really establishing how much of a monster he is. And when I look at the board here of who's left for him, Lance Archer, Tom Lawler, Jeff Cobb, Bad Luck Fale, I think Jonah could, and of course Okada, right? I think Jonah can muster 3 more wins. I think his tournament's already done, just off of my gut feeling. There's no math to support it at this point, but I don't see him defeating Okada. I think he could defeat Fale, because Fale is basically going to be there to eat losses and put other guys over. And I could see him getting one over Tom Lawler as well. I feel like Archer, Cobb, Okada, I think those are all potential wins for him. Losses, excuse me. And I was really sure he was going to get the win over Yano, but Yano did the whole, Yano's the spoiler. So there you go. So, I would dare say that Jonah's tournament is all, just by looking at the quality of matches moving forward, the lanes that everyone are in, I feel like there are more people above Jonah's lane in New Japan right now. And I'm talking booking. I'm not talking necessarily about talent or, because Jonah's very good. A lot of people are, a lot of very good people here. But I think Fale's a shoe-in for a win. I think, I can definitely see Tom Lawler as a win for him. But Jeff Cobb, Lance Archer, Okada, no, he's not beating those guys. So I think he's toast at this point. The rest is very much up in the air. So, this is part of the new way of covering the G1 this year. I'm like, well, we can't start diving in and being like, okay, well, we're gonna have to wait a little more to see how this goes. So G1 action returns July 20th on night 3, where we're going to have A block action via Lance Archer versus Bad Luck Fale. B block action is going to be Tama Tonga versus Chase Owens. C block is going to be Hiroki Goto versus Tetsuya Naito. And in block B, Dave Finlay versus Yujiro Takahashi. The team. And if you ask my predictions, A block, I'd say Archer over Fale. I'd say Tama Tonga over Chase Owens. I'd say Naito over Goto, and Finlay over Yujiro. Those would be my predictions for night 3. And then night 4, after that, July 23rd, A block action is going to be Kazuchika Okada versus Toru Yano. So that's really interesting because Okada's getting a match back already, and Tom Lawler hasn't even debuted yet. So it's such a wild one. So Kazuchika Okada versus Toru Yano, Tomohiro Ishii and Jay White will be going at it in block B. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Aaron Henare in C block. And for D block will be Shingo Takagi taking on Yoshihashi. In my opinion, my predictions here, Okada over Yano. I would say White over Ishii. Sabre versus over Henare, and Takagi over Yoshihashi. But see, that's it. Is like we're still establishing how things in the tournament are going to go down. And you see, Okada is going to have 2 points. He's going to have 2 matches up on, and Yano are going to have 2 matches up over most of the crew here, right? So so it will be that's it. They'll have 2 matches over the rest of the people in the block. So it's going to be very interesting to see again how this is going to play out. Because I'm not really sure on the 23rd, right? There you go, Okada and Yano. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I'll tell you one thing: I will be back after night 4. We're gonna combine nights 3 and 4 into one review here. Again, if you like this, I appreciate it. Show me that you liked it by leaving a like here on YouTube.com. Tell me you liked it by dropping a comment. Tell me Tell me what you're thinking about the tournament so far. Lay down some predictions as well. Do you think I'm completely off base? What do you have on your mind regarding the G1 Climax 32? I'd love to hear about it. I love talking about pro wrestling. So especially the G1, which is one of the best times of the year. The G1, Christmas, my birthday, Halloween, previous editions of the G1. You know, when you do rewatches and stuff. What am I even? That's it. Let's just wrap this up. We're good. We're good for now. Thank you everyone for joining me. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We will, and like I said, I'll be back. I'll be back after night 4 for some more G1 talk. In the meantime, have a great time and see you next time.